What's going on, guys? I'm Steve. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. If you're a returning subscriber, as always, guys, welcome back, and I do appreciate the support. Guys, news broke last night, about an accident between a Black Hawk helicopter and a American Airlines flight 5342. I think they said it was coming from Wichita, Kansas, in which the plane was going to land, and it was collided into by a Black Hawk military helicopter, presumably from the Army. Said 3 people were on the Black Hawk. 64 people were on the flight, the American Airlines flight. Collision ended in a big fireball going into the Potomac River. Now it's a recovery efforts are underway, because they're saying they don't think there's no survivors. Now, I looked at this thing, and I'm gonna just give my 2 cents in it. It's unfortunate that this happened, and accidents do happen. But I mean, with the way they are with the FAA and all of this type of stuff, and safety regulations, and people that are seasoned pilots knowing the ins and outs of, flying and landing procedures, this don't seem right with me. Plus, somebody coming from Air Force experience, I was a crew chief initially, and then I started doing crash recovery, duties. It don't sound right. I'm gonna explain a couple of things to you and see if it makes sense to you. But for now, take a look at the videos of what they're saying so far.
Washington, D.C.'s fire chief says the rescue mission in the Potomac River has now turned to a recovery operation.
At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
Earthcam video shows the moment a commercial passenger jet and an Army helicopter collided in midair just before 9 p.m. near Reagan National Airport outside Washington, D.C.
Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river.
Video obtained by CBS News shows what air traffic controllers would have seen. The Black Hawk at the top of the screen appears to move directly in the path of the jet operated by PSA Airlines.
We don't know why the military aircraft came into the path of the PSA aircraft.
President Donald Trump is pushing for an explanation.
We'll find out how this disaster occurred, and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again.
The Army says the Black Hawk helicopter was on a training flight with 3 service members on board. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said on social media that the DoD is actively investigating.
It was a fairly experienced crew, and that was doing a required annual night evaluation.
This is the first major commercial crash in the United States in around 16 years. Officials are hoping the black box flight recorder helps investigators figure out what happened.
Anytime you have 2 airplanes close together, they will then go to visual separation. The real question, of course, is why did that visual separation break down to this disaster that we have right now?
A number of figure skaters, along with their coaches and parents, were among those on board the plane, including 6 people from the skating club of Boston.
2 coaches, 2 teenage athletes, and the athletes' moms. It's a close, tight bond, and I think for all of us, we have lost family.
In a statement, U.S. Figure Skating says, quote, "We are devastated by this unspeakable tragedy and hold the victims' families closely in our hearts." Natalie Brand, CBS News, Reagan National Airport.
We just heard from the President and the Secretary of Transportation and Defense, all saying that this is a tragedy that should not have happened.
64 people were on that American Airlines plane. 3 were on board that U.S. Army helicopter. All are believed to be dead, and we have team coverage on this story. We want to begin with Josh Einiger. He's live in Arlington, Virginia, right near the crash scene. Josh.
Well, Lauren and David, so many developments over the course of the last several hours. The most recent one, I should say, is, of course, what we just heard from the White House briefing room as President Trump entered, and not even 24 hours after this crash, suggested his own idea for what might have caused it.
A week before I entered office, they put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Certainly for an air traffic controller, we want the brightest, the smartest, the sharpest. We want somebody that's psychologically superior.
course, there has been no evidence to suggest that diversity, equity, inclusion programs had anything to do with the disaster, the tragedy that unfolded here last night at around 9 o'clock. Right now, Reagan Airport here outside of Washington is back open. There is a steady stream of departures and arrivals on the runways behind me, and just past the runways in the water, the recovery effort to find the bodies of the dead. It was a violent collision in a pitch black sky. Investigators sure to be studying this video of the fireball last night over Reagan National Airport, when in an instant a routine flight turned deadly. The wreckage of an American Airlines regional jet plunging into the waters of the Potomac River, where after hours in the freezing dark, rescue workers faced the grim reality there was no one to save.
At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors.
The emergency unfolded around 9 last night. American Eagle Flight 5342, a regional jet from Wichita, was just a few seconds from landing at National's runway 33 while a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter was approaching. Controllers warned the military aircraft, call sign PAT-25, about the regional jet, known as a CRJ.
PAT-25, CRJ in flight. PAT has an aircraft inside pressure separation.
But despite that confirmation of so-called visual separation from the jet, EarthCam webcam video shows the Black Hawk closing in, and then the collision.
It was lit up a very bright yellow, and there was a stream of sparks underneath the plane.
Crash. This is alert 3. Crash. This is alert 3.
The investigation began as quickly as the rescue effort. The Pentagon says the Black Hawk and its 3-person crew were assigned to the 12th Aviation Battalion at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and had been on a training flight using night vision goggles.
A senior level aviation team, an investigative team from our Aviation Safety Center, was deployed last night and already is in Washington, D.C. to investigate what's going on.
Safety is our expectation. Everyone who flies in American skies expects that we fly safely, that when you depart an airport, you get to your destination. That didn't happen last night.
So what did cause what happened last night? We are expecting our first fact-based briefing from the NTSB sometime this afternoon. Although, of course, like with many of these types of investigations, the actual investigation might take days, weeks, even months to complete. We're live at Washington's Reagan National Airport. Josh Einiger, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Okay, guys, I'm going to point out a couple of things. They're saying this is an accident. Is it an accident or was it willful error? I don't know. And now, believe me, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but I want to point out a couple of things that show that this doesn't make no sense. The first thing is what everybody's talking about. If you noticed in the video, they radioed to the helicopter and said, hey, you got an approaching aircraft. You know, we're just letting you know for visual sake. At night, when they're flying, or like in the daytime, the air traffic controller's job is to be the eyes and ears of the pilot of the plane coming in. Now that plane, they said, was 300 or 30 seconds away from landing. So at least 300 feet, they're saying, you know, up in the air before coming down. When a plane is landing, and anybody that's been on a plane to tell you the plane is inverted. Pilots, when they're landing the plane is coming down where they're sitting up some. You know, they usually come down to face the runway to where they can catch those lines, those look like highway lines. As they're landing, the plane comes up, the nose comes up, and they key on them lines and land. The eyes of them are the air traffic controllers. They're not in the wrong. You got a military aircraft flying over civilian airspace over an airport. It's different type of regulation with that. Why is that even there? If they're out there doing what they said was a training flight at night, why are they flying in public airspace? Don't know about that. I don't understand it. Another thing is this. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, this side. Look over here. That is a Black Hawk cockpit. Look at the visibility of that. A helicopter can go by sight a lot. Because a lot of people are like, oh, why they didn't use the radar? They're 300 feet above the ground. the radar is usually turned off because landing is more about flight control, the flight controls, and more about visual than radar. Another thing is radar is not good near the ground. It's hazardous. Like, they don't turn radar on the ground. Radar fry you if you're standing in front of it or in the vicinity of it. So a lot of times the radar is turned off as they're coming down. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you're on the plane and say, hey, cut off all your electronic devices and all this other stuff during landing and takeoff. That's because of the radar situation and the effect that it can have on electronics and the thing. When they're landing at night, they're not going to have a radar on, because the closer they are to the ground, the more distracting it is, because a lot of stuff picks it up and it scrambles everything. Everything's from sight with the help of the air traffic control. That's why military aircraft don't be flying through that type of thing. This whole thing, and these are all seasoned pilots, right? It looked like the military air helicopter, after they done heard that the thing, you know, a plane was coming. I'm more than sure they can see it with that. You know what I'm saying? It seemed like it veered and went right into it. Now, there's some people saying, oh, well, there's some winds that, listen, I've never seen a helicopter, and I'm not saying this doesn't happen. I'm not a helicopter pilot or a helicopter mechanic. I don't know. Where I see in a helicopter just veer like it was turned and hit something during a crosswind. I've never seen that. They're talking about, oh, well, we need the black boxes. Do you now? The black boxes ain't going to say anything about what led up to that, because you got all of the communications already out in the airways and they're playing it publicly. Black box only has something to really do with if there's a mechanical issue. And it didn't look like a mechanical issue to me, and it might be. But I don't know, it just don't look right. Leave me a comment, man. Tell me if anything I said makes sense, or it just don't look right. It's like it's a stoplight or two different road, a 4-lane road, you know, like 4-way stop. And the ones that got the right of way is the American Airlines jet. And you got another car coming this way, and it's looking, and it got visual on the other one. People are on the phone, hey, watch out for that car. Oh, I see the car, and then all of a sudden it turns and goes to it. Something don't look right. I mean, it may be a mistake. We all might be wrong, but I'm not, you know, people are dead here, including soldiers. May they all rest in peace. Was it a willful error, or was it on purpose? We don't know. But I'm anxious to see what happens with this. I don't really cover plane crashes and stuff like that, but this right here was weird when I seen the plane, the helicopter turn and go to the, oh, no, I'm gonna see if I'm the only one that's thinking this. Anyway, I'm Stock Market Steve for the Dynamic Reason channel. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Like I said before, may everybody rest in peace. Unfortunate, that close to home, and then this happens. Fireball in the sky. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.